What if planting a tree in your own yard got it chopped down, a $500 fine, and police at your door with handcuffs ready? In Nevada, Anna Lee's green dream turned into an HOA nightmare. Stay tuned for a story of nature, injustice, and a community's fight for their rights. In the arid suburb of Sunstone Valley, Nevada, where the sun blazed relentlessly and the streets shimmered with heat, 40-year-old Anna Lee lived a life of quiet defiance. A botanist who worked at a local nursery, Anna had bought her $270,000 ranch-style home in 2021, a modest space with a front yard she dreamed of transforming into a green oasis. Inspired by her love for nature, Anna planted a young maple tree in her front yard, its delicate branches swaying in the dry desert breeze, the soft rustle of its leaves a soothing sound in the harsh landscape. On the scorching morning of February 15th, 2026, she stood on her porch, the creak of the wooden boards beneath her feet a familiar sound, watching the tree's leaves shimmer in the sunlight, a small symbol of life in the barren neighborhood. Sunstone Valley was governed by a strict homeowners association, led by 64-year-old President Richard Baxter, a retired accountant who enforced rules with a dictator's precision. Richard saw the neighborhood as a uniform desert retreat. No greenery, no deviations, and certainly no unapproved plants that could disrupt the aesthetic. The HOA bylaws stated, "No trees or plants may be added without approval, with a $500 fine per violation," a rule Richard applied with zero tolerance, fearing trees could attract pests or block views. That morning, as he drove through the neighborhood in his golf cart, its motor humming softly, he spotted Anna's maple tree, its vibrant green leaves a stark contrast to the sandy lawns of other homes. His face reddened, his hands tightening on the steering wheel, and he muttered to himself, "A tree in my neighborhood? That's coming down today." At 10:30 a.m., just as Anna watered her tree with a hose, the gentle spray of water hissing softly against the leaves, the sharp wail of police sirens shattered the morning calm. She dropped the hose, the water splashing onto the ground with a wet thud, as a police SUV rolled into the cul-de-sac, its tires kicking up dust, red and blue lights flashing in the blazing sun. Two officers stepped out, their boots crunching on the gravel-strewn pavement. The lead officer, 47-year-old Carl Bennett, wiping sweat from his brow as he approached. "Ma'am, we've had a complaint about an unapproved tree," Officer Bennett said, his voice gruff and unyielding, cutting through the rustling leaves. Anna's heart sank, her hands trembling as she turned off the hose. "A complaint? It's my yard. I planted it for shade," she said, her voice rising with disbelief, the words carrying across the dry air. Richard, who had followed in his golf cart, stepped out with a stern expression, clutching a fine notice in his hand, his clipboard clattering as he set it down. "Your tree violates HOA rules and could attract pests," he declared, his tone sharp and authoritative. "That's a $500 fine, and we're removing it." Anna's eyes widened, her voice shaking as she gestured to the tree. "It's my property, and it's just a tree. You can't do this," she protested, her words overlapping with the sound of Richard tearing the fine notice from his pad, the paper ripping with a harsh sound. Officer Bennett, known in Sunstone Valley for his allegiance to the HOA after years of handling their complaints, wasn't swayed. "If you don't comply, I'll have to arrest you for non-compliance," he snapped, his tone icy, as he unhooked his handcuffs from his belt, the metal clanking ominously in the still air. Anna stood her ground, her heart pounding. But before she could react further, Richard called over an HOA contracted landscaper who had arrived in a pickup truck, its engine roaring as they unloaded their equipment. The landscaper fired up a chainsaw, the deafening roar of the motor drowning out Anna's shouts, and began cutting down the maple tree, its branches crashing to the ground with a heavy thud, the leaves scattering across the yard like fallen dreams. Officer Bennett stepped closer, his handcuffs still in hand, their metallic clank a chilling sound as he issued a warning. "Remove any remaining roots, or you'll be arrested for defiance," he growled, his voice low, the heat of the day intensifying the tension. Anna's neighbor, 50-year-old mechanic Tom Rivera, ran out of his house, his voice booming as he shouted, "Leave her alone." But the landscaper finished the job. The stump of the tree, a stark reminder of Anna's loss, the fine notice fluttering on her porch in the desert breeze. Anna couldn't let this go, not just for herself, but for every resident in Sunstone Valley who longed for a touch of nature in their sterile surroundings. Word of the incident spread through the neighborhood, shared during grocery runs and whispered at the local diner. The residents, many of whom admired Anna's efforts to bring greenery to the desert, were furious, and a group of neighbors, led by 45-year-old teacher Elena Morales, organized a protest to support her. The next afternoon at 2 p.m., dozens of residents gathered in front of Anna's house, their footsteps kicking up dust as they held signs demanding the right to plant trees, their voices rising in a chorus of boos and chants that echoed through the cul-de-sac, a defiant stand against the HOA's control. Children drew pictures of trees on the sidewalk with chalk, their laughter mingling with the sound of protest, a symbol of hope in the barren landscape. The protest caught the attention of the Sunstone Valley Herald, which ran a story titled "Botanist Fined $500, Tree Cut Down by HOA, Neighbors Protest." The reporter's voice amplifying the community's anger through a local radio broadcast. Encouraged by the support, Anna decided to sue the HOA, hiring a lawyer, 48-year-old Robert Klein, who specialized in environmental rights cases. Robert argued that the HOA's rule was overly restrictive and that the police had abused their authority by threatening arrest over a civil dispute, his voice steady and commanding in the courtroom. The trial drew a crowd of Sunstone Valley residents, their footsteps shuffling as they filled the benches, their murmurs a quiet buzz of anticipation. Anna took the stand, her voice thick with emotion as she recounted the day, her words carrying the weight of her passion. "I planted that tree to bring life to this desert," she said, her tone breaking. "They destroyed it for no reason." Robert presented legal precedents, protecting the right to plant on private property, his arguments sharp and compelling, the rustle of documents loud as he handed them to the judge. But Richard and the HOA board were unyielding. Richard claimed the tree threatened the neighborhood's uniformity and could cause pest issues, his voice nasal and sharp, his fingers tapping impatiently on the table. Officer Bennett defended the arrest threat, insisting Anna's refusal to comply justified his actions, his tone gruff and unapologetic. The judge, a 68-year-old known for upholding HOA authority, sided with the HOA, his gavel slamming down with a resounding thud that silenced the room. "The bylaws prioritize community standards," he declared, his voice booming, the echo lingering. Anna was ordered to pay the $500 fine, plus $3,000 in HOA legal fees. The verdict, a devastating blow that left her staring at the floor, her shoulders slumped in defeat. The aftermath was bleak. The HOA, emboldened by the ruling, tightened restrictions on planting. announcing the new rule at the next meeting, Richard's voice echoing through the community center's speakers with a new fine of $700 for violations. Anna, financially strained, had to cut back on her nursery budget, the sound of her disappointed sighs a constant reminder of the cost. Sunstone Valley, once a place of potential greenery, became a battleground, with residents fearing the HOA's unchecked power. Anna never planted another tree, her front yard now a barren patch of sand, the desert sun beating down mercilessly, the rustle of leaves a distant memory in the harsh landscape. And so, a dream of greenery became a battle for justice in Sunstone Valley, Nevada. Was Anna wrong to plant a tree in her own yard, or did the HOA go too far with their rules? What do you think? Should a touch of nature be banned for the sake of uniformity? Share your thoughts and join us next time for another tale of HOA madness. Until then, keep fighting for what's right. Thank you for listening.